Hi, welcome to another Solocast edition of Dig Deeper. This is where I get to share with you, solo, some thoughts I've been having about leadership stuff that I reckon will be useful for you in your own leadership development journey. This one's called How to Lead from the Edge of Things. And by the way, if you prefer to read or you want to read this as well as listen to it, you can get this on my website, digbyscott.com/thoughts, along with all the other written versions of these Solocast episodes. So let me tell you about how to lead from the edge of things. So I've recently got back from my annual windsurfing trip. And I do this in this remote, rugged region of northwest Western Australia. It's been 26 years, would you believe, since I was first drawn to this place. It was this kind of mythical place my brother originally went to, and I saw a video of it, and it looked like it was like surfing on the moon. It was just dry and harsh and raw and wild and unrelenting. And I'm like, I want to go there. And it was quite a few years later after I saw that video that I did go there. And I've been going back ever since, every year. It's awe-inspiring. It's so powerful for me. And I exist there for usually 2 or 3 weeks at a time off the grid with some good mates. And we're nestled between the massive Australian continent and the even bigger Indian Ocean. It's really awe-inspiring. And I've been reflecting, it's not the first time, why I'm drawn to such a place, and also reflecting more generally about, like, for so many of us, we're drawn to the coast, and this is where the ocean meets the land. And I reckon it's a powerful metaphor for what it means to lead, particularly in times of uncertainty, of change, of messiness, of confusion. So here are some thoughts and some questions for you about that whole idea. So first thought, the coast exists where the ever-changing ocean meets the never-changing land. Well, really, it's very, very slowly changing land. And similarly, I reckon leaders exist between the stability that their organisations crave and the change that the future demands. But what if this is a tension that isn't something to resolve, but instead it's something to embrace, something to inhabit? Food for thought, huh? Next point. The ocean is never the same twice, yet the coastline remains. And as leaders, I reckon we've got to hold this tension, this both tension, responding to what's immediately in front of us, yet while maintaining what endures. And how the hell do you stay grounded when everything around you is in motion? Now, both masses, the water in front of us and the land behind us, are massive. They're huge compared to our tiny, puny bodies. And we're nuts if we think we can change these gigantic forces. Yet, I reckon we can learn to work with the dynamics that it's created when they meet. And that's why I reckon riding waves for me is such a pull, it's such a draw. Every wave's different. Yet, I can learn to read the patterns. I can check out how many waves in a set, how the waves change depending on their size, and how the tide is changing. And the more I can read those patterns, the more I get adept at not just responding to the individual wave, but to see the forces and the patterns that are creating those conditions. The better I get, the more confident I get to work with what's in front of me, to be present, not to try and map it all out, but just to go with it, knowing that I'm familiar with these situations and the bigger picture at play. And I definitely don't get it right. I get smashed all the time with these waves. Yet there's an inner confidence that is coming from just learning to read the patterns rather than trying to change anything. Here's another idea. The intertidal zone. That's where the richest life exists. It's neither fully ocean or fully land, and it's in this space where leadership, I reckon, actually happens. It's not in the safety of either extreme. If we want to breathe life into our teams and our organisations, we need to operate from where things are most dynamic, in that intertidal zone, that space between. But you can't get too comfortable there either. You can't be too comfortable on the edge. As a kid, I was given this really wise advice: never turn your back on the ocean, because the ocean can come and floor you when you're not looking. So you've got to be constantly alert to what might be coming at you, both in the immediate, like a rogue wave come and smash you down, or the more slower changing things like the tide, like how the current is changing and there's a rip maybe emerging, right? Because that landscape's never static. I think all too often we fail to read the signs before it's too late. And I reckon one of the core leadership skills that we need to grow, to cultivate, isn't about being in action. It's about slowing down and noticing how things are evolving and anticipating where things might go next. There's a bunch of challenges and opportunities here for us as leaders. Let me sum up some of the challenges, just some of them. So there's the challenge of the exhaustion of constant movement. Waves never stop. And there's the challenge of the erosion that can happen slowly, imperceptibly, until suddenly the cliff face just gives way. There's the challenge of the loneliness of standing at the edge when others might prefer the safety of solid ground. You know, when we're out there in front and we're going first, that can be a really lonely place. And there can be this temptation to retreat fully to land where, you know, there's control and there's certainty. And I think, most of us know that feeling rather than being at the edge. This is kind of pulled towards, this is too scary. And also for some, the challenge is actually they want to dive into change and make all this change happen. But perhaps we actually need to go just a little bit more cautiously. So the challenge of the tension about where to be and when. And I reckon there's also this challenge of being misunderstood by people who operate from either extreme. They love to be stable and secure. And so for you to be a change agent at the edge, you can be seen as a threat. But also if you're moving too slowly, people can get really frustrated with you as well. Lots of challenges. Also opportunities though. Let me talk you through some of the opportunities when we're at the edge. The edge is where I reckon the most interesting discoveries happen. And we need both delivery, making stuff happen, but we also need discovery. Got to be at the edge where things are changing, where things are emerging, where things are dynamic. That's where we learn new things. You can grow different capabilities when you're at the edge. You can learn to balance. You can learn to be between, which is, I think, such a skill, not to be able to be at one extreme or the other, but be able to move between and be adaptable. Also, the skill of awareness, noticing patterns, as I've been talking about, noticing how you respond to things and what choices you have. At the edge, you can see what's coming before it reaches your organisation. If you're out the edge and you're looking at the patterns of what's coming at us, what are the forces at play out there in the ocean, you can read that and then you can be more informed to be able to make better choices when those forces actually do arrive. You can also create the conditions for new things to emerge. I love this idea of leaders as people who create the conditions. It's kind of like the metaphor of the tidal pool, right? That's where most of the life is. So how do you create more tidal pools in your organisation? And finally, I reckon opportunity is to become just that bit more comfortable with uncertainty as a constant companion. When I'm at the coast, when I'm at the edge, I love noticing how things are changing and being okay with that. And I think the more I'm aware of that, life is always about evolution and change and difference. That's always an element. The more I can breathe out to go, okay, how do I work with this? So let me give you some questions just to reflect on. And you might want to go to the printed version again, digbyscott.com/thoughts, where you can maybe grab those and write some notes on them. So let me just read through this. Where do you find yourself right now? Are you standing at the edge or have you retreated to safer ground? What would it mean to stop trying to control the ocean and instead learn to read its rhythms? Who else stands at the edge with you? How might you support each other in this exposed position? What are you seeing? What's being revealed from this vantage point that others can't yet see that you might want to pass on? If you accepted that there's this tension between stability and change and it will never go away, how might you lead differently? What would it look like to create tidal pools in your organisation. Protected spaces where new things can emerge before they're ready for the full force of either system. I love that idea of tidal pools. And when you feel the erosion happening to your energy, to your relationships, your vision, what are you noticing? And what might that be telling you? Finally, one final bonus thought, one final slightly different metaphor. What if you thought of yourself as a lighthouse keeper? So you're not trying to stop the waves or hold back the land. You're there to provide orientation for others who are navigating these forces. What does it mean to be a point of reference rather than a controller of outcomes? That's it for this episode of Dig Deeper. I reckon it'll be food for thought for you. At least one of those questions I'm hoping will grab you. If you reckon there's someone in your world who could do with hearing this, please forward it. I'd love that if you could forward it on, get a conversation going. And if you're keen to get more Solocasts as well as the fuller, longer interview style episodes that I release, just subscribe in your favourite app. I'm Digby Scott. This is Dig Deeper, and until next time, go well.